Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
When you think about different things that can trigger your immune system, there is something that is so incredibly common that so many people deal with each and every single year, but they just kind of accept it. And I want to talk about what you can be doing in terms of your diet as well as nutrients that can support your health much better when it comes to seasonal changes. Many people experience the runny nose, the sneezing, the itchy ears, itchy throat, all of these things that we know can be brought on because of seasonal changes and different pollens in the air. So I want to talk about specifically what nutrients that are actually coming from nature that can be beneficial when it comes to optimizing the way that your body responds to these different immunological changes. So I am Amanda Williams, MD, MPH, and today I want to look at basic nutrients that have been around for hundreds of years and how you can utilize these nutrients to really support your overall immune system. Obviously, foods matter. So during this time, if you are more prone to the impact of those seasonal changes, you want to make sure that you are definitely adhering to a Mediterranean diet, which is going to be anti-inflammatory. The more we do to abate the actual inflammation throughout the airways as well as the sinuses, the better off we are. Now, if you're following a standard American diet, this is actually going to drive up the inflammation, and it can really exacerbate many of those symptoms that you can experience during those seasonal changes. So I want to talk about mangosteen extract. And the reason why is because mangosteen extract has been around for a really long time. I mean, they date this back into the 1600s, and they have coined it the food of the gods, or some also refer to it as the queen of fruits. But mangosteen is this fruit that is really rich in terms of energy, protein, carbohydrates, fiber. It has all these wonderful blends of different vitamins and minerals, which we know are very important when it comes to our immune system. Remember, the innate and the adaptive immune system are in requirement of essential vitamins and minerals. So mangosteen extract actually contains things like magnesium and potassium and zinc. We know the importance of zinc when it comes to our immune system. We also know that it has a high amount of things such as vitamin C, B6, B12, vitamin A. All of these are important for maintaining our overall health. Now, when we think about a healthy immune system, mangosteen, being that it incorporates all of these powerful nutrients, these vitamins and minerals and antioxidants, they actually provide this barrier to allow the body to better fend off all of the harmful effect from these different pollutants. And mangosteen is a tropical fruit, but when we are utilizing it in its extracted form, it's really very powerful. Now, there was a study that was done many years ago, and it was published in the Biological and Pharmaceutical Bulletin Journal, where they were looking at the inhibition of histamine release as well as prostaglandin E2 synthesis via the utilization of mangosteen. So what does that really mean? Well, they looked into the indigenous medicine that has been practiced for hundreds of years in Thailand. And what they were able to determine was that the impact that mangosteen extract actually had on the human body in the histamine release as well as prostaglandins. These are the two main things that we know can drive up a lot of those symptoms. So when you feel that real sinus congestion, or if you're having the issues with sneezing or runny eyes. So what they looked at specifically was that the mangosteen extract actually inhibited IgE, which is immunoglobulin E, mediated histamine release. So we have all these different immunoglobulins, and immunoglobulin E is in control of our mast cells, which is where we get the production or the overproduction during these times of histamine. And it's that histamine that drives up all of those really pesky symptoms, as well as creates that environment of keeping you in a more inflamed status. Now, here's another interesting point about mangosteen extract. In the Nutrition Journal, back in 2009, they were actually looking once again at the benefits of mangosteen extract on biomarkers for inflammation. So they took a group of obese individuals, because one knows that when someone is carrying around excess weight, they are going to have excess level of inflammation occurring within the body. And from this, they said, well, let's see if we give this group of people who are obese, if we give them mangosteen extract, if this will do anything in terms of these different markers of inflammation. We know that antioxidant levels in people who are obese generally are lower. We know that markers for inflammation are generally higher. So mangosteen, being that it contains its own natural antioxidants, on top of the fact that we know it's helping to regulate a proper inflammatory response, is really a very powerful thing. So the way that they set this whole study up, this was an 8-week randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial, and they were looking specifically at the impact of mangosteen extract when it came to biochemical indicators of inflammation. And after this 8 weeks, they found that the high sensitivity C-reactive protein measurements dropped considerably compared to the placebo group. And they concluded that the mangosteen extract reduced CRP levels, and they also found that mangosteen extract had this wonderful ability when it came to enhancing the body's ability to fend off oxidative stress. So that's some pretty powerful thing that comes from nature. So we think about this fruit, and we think about how beneficial things from nature really are. Like I said, many people, when they deal with these seasonal changes, they run down to the pharmacy and they get their antihistamine or they get a decongestant, which can have a multitude of different side effects that can really create even more havoc for you. Can impact blood pressure, can create a situation where it really dries you out, where then the dryness becomes an irritant. So we have to look at things from nature and say, how could something like this benefit me? Well, mangosteen and the way that mangosteen extract has been studied really shows just how powerful it really is. And then we look at another nutrient, and that is quercetin. And we know that quercetin is a powerhouse when we think about bioflavonoids. And bioflavonoids support our overall health at a cellular level. We think about endothelial health. We think about our immune system. We know that quercetin, which is primarily derived from things like citrus fruits, but also comes from things like onions and parsley and tea. So kind of you're starting to see that trend towards that Mediterranean diet. If we're taking in apples and onions and parsley and tea and red wine and olive oil and dark berries, these are all things that contain a good amount of quercetin in it. And we know that quercetin is supporting a healthy seasonal immune response. It helps to support not only the lining of the blood vessels, but we also know it can help to maintain and support healthy cholesterol levels. So much information that has come out recently on quercetin, even the fact that it can target issues with environmental toxins and pesticides, showing the cellular benefit of having quercetin on board. So we think, okay, mangosteen with all these vitamins and minerals in it, and it's targeting histamine, and it's helping with a healthy inflammatory response. And then we combine this up with quercetin, and looking how quercetin actually can inhibit the expression of inflammatory cytokines. And it does this through this attenuation of NF-kappa beta. So when we look at different clinical research studies, we see and we recognize just how powerful quercetin can be to giving the body a more favorable immune system response, in the presence of different environmental triggers. So study after study shows how powerful things from nature actually are. These are food-based nutrients. In the Journal of Nutrition, they talked about serum C-reactive protein levels and how that was inversely associated with dietary flavonoid intake. This was done through Michigan State University, and they were looking at how CRP is this biomarker for chronic inflammation, and they found that when people had higher intake of things like quercetin, these powerful bioflavonoids, that this actually helped with lowering systemic inflammation. So all of these different nutrients, when we combine them, really gives the body this extra helping hand or a fighting chance when it comes to those seasonal changes. We can also look at stinging nettle. Nettle root extract, once again, has been around for an incredibly long time. And we know that nettle root extract is very beneficial when we look at allergic rhinitis. So that's all of those symptoms that people experience within the sinuses. The Journal of Phytotherapy Research, they talked specifically about this. They talked about how nettle root extract could inhibit these key inflammatory events that cause the symptoms of seasonal allergies. When we talk about that histamine response, when we talk about the inflammation that is driven up via those prostaglandins coming from COX-1 and COX-2, that's your cyclooxygenase pathways, and recognizing that the actual ability of stinging nettle to downregulate this inflammatory response is very, very powerful. So study after study, once again, we're looking at things from nature. We're looking at how beneficial these nutrients can be. And say, for example, you don't experience issues when it comes to seasonal changes, and that's a great thing. But just understand that if we are taking things like mangosteen extract and quercetin and stinging nettle, we are still yielding the benefit of targeting inflammation throughout the body. So even in the setting of arthritic type conditions, which is why they have looked at stinging nettle root extract specifically when it comes to patients who have osteoarthritis of the knee and the hip. They've done a double-blind placebo-controlled trial. This was published in the Arthritis Research Therapy Journal, looking at how beneficial, once again, this thing coming from nature, the stinging nettle root extract, can be when we think about our overall systemic response to these nutrients. And then we look at vitamin C, and we know vitamin C plays a really critical role, this essential antioxidant that really targets the histamine release. So we know that it's naturally hindering or impeding the histamine pathway. So when we have these four nutrients in particular, we look at vitamin C, we look at mangosteen, quercetin, and nettle, it really gives a power punch for those seasonal changes. Now you can go to our website, you can look at our Respiratory Hx formulation, which contains these powerful four nutrients all combined together. So the vitamin C, the mangosteen, the quercetin, and that nettle root. And as I mentioned, even if you don't fall into that category of having seasonal induced allergies, you still yield a benefit in terms of immune system support, in terms of easing inflammation in the body by taking these on board as part of a regular routine. Think about all the different things that we are exposed to as humans on an everyday basis. When we think about all of the different pollutants and the pesticides that are commonly found on foods, knowing that quercetin can target that very specifically, knowing that nettle leaf extract is very powerful when it comes to the way that the body reacts and responds to cellular stress. So we think about what people can experience, and we think about our choices. We say, okay, well, we need to make sure that we're not eating a pro-inflammatory diet. We don't want to be loading up on all these bad carbohydrates that just drives up inflammation and makes that histamine come out even worse. We know we have to follow that Mediterranean diet, incorporate in all of those powerful foods that yield us so much benefit when it comes to a healthy immune response and inflammatory response. Remember, the two go hand in hand. So if the immune system is lackluster because we don't have the right nutrients, this will impact the way that the body drives up inflammation. And we know that chronic inflammation is the backbone to every single chronic disease out there. So whether you have something such as type 2 diabetes, arthritis, high cholesterol, hypertension, chronic kidney disease, all of these different things that we know inflammation is playing a role into, it makes sense to say, hey, let's look at things from nature. Let's look at mangosteen, this powerful fruit extract that's been around for hundreds of years and has been used for so many different health concerns. And then when we combine it with the quercetin and that stinging nettle, along with that vitamin C, we are giving the body this blend of nutrients that really helps to support a healthy immune system response. And at the end of the day, the more that we do to support our immune system, the better off we are. And that is one of the key things to not overlook is boosting your immune system is always advantageous. Taking probiotics, taking vitamin D3, knowing what your vitamin D3 level is by having your serum vitamin D3 level tested every year. All of these things can be incredibly beneficial and supportive for your overall health. And that is all that I have for you for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the Invite Health podcast. Remember, you can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcast. Now, do make sure that you subscribe and leave us a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. And we will see you next time for another episode of the Invite Health podcast.